What's up, everyone? I want to come on and talk about marriage and more specifically resolving issues, right? So lately I've been seeing couples come on and saying what works for them. One couple I saw recently said that when they get into a heated debate, aka an argument, they have to settle it right then and there. I thought that was powerful for them, that being the key point right there. For them, that's what worked for them. And they explained why it worked for them. They said if they go off and have to come back later, who's going to dictate the terms of when later works? So for them to squash any animosity, they decided they had to stay in it and fix it right then and there. And I respect that. I think that's genius if it works for you. I think what's important is every couple has to find out what little nuances works for them in settling disagreements. So for me and my wife of 23 years, we have decided that when there's something we have to talk about, we ask each other, can we have an inconvenient conversation? That's what we call it, an inconvenient conversation. Why is it inconvenient? Because it's most likely going to poke at someone else's stability and feelings, where it's a good chance it can make them feel inadequate in their efforts or what they're doing and what they're bringing to the marriage covenant at the time. So it's always inconvenient because someone's feelings are going to get poked. All right, so we say, to set the stage, can we have an inconvenient conversation? And in that, we take turns talking. This is how I feel. This is the evidence that I'm basing my feelings on. And we each got to go sit with that, see if we can agree or have to come back at a later time after we think about it. We try not to answer rashly. We try not to rush our opinions just to be done with the conversation. Sometimes we're able to reconcile right then and there, apologize, hug it out, kiss it out, hopefully do something else out. We married, so it's all good. But you want to reconcile as soon as possible, but you have to do what works for you. If you get too heated, right? If you're tired, if you're hungry, if you had a hard day at work, if something happened in the family, if your emotions are not even keeled, it might not be the best time to talk or to try to reconcile. You have to have the self-awareness to decide if this is a good time. Now, it doesn't have to be a perfect time, but if it's a good time, can you listen objectively? Can you listen with an open and soft spirit? Are you in a position to be corrected, to be teachable, to operate in humility at that time? It doesn't have to be perfect. We're not looking for perfection. But if it's 11 o'clock at night, you have to get up early. If you just got home, you got caught in the rain, just anything that could really set your mood off is already started negative, you want to wait. So, we would say, babe, could we have this conversation a little later? Could we have it tomorrow? We try to put a time on when we're going to have it. What you don't want to do is just leave the person hanging. Just have an indefinite, I'll get back to you. Now, sometimes we do that to our fault, right? All of this that I share, we're not perfect. We practice what we preach a high percentage of the time, not every time. No one coming on sharing advice, marriage advice, is probably killing 100% of the time in their advice. That's not even realistic. So I'm just going to put that out there. Whatever I suggest and tell you that we do, it's the majority, high majority of the time. Have we been to bed upset? Of course. Of course. The Bible says not to let the sun go down on your anger, right? In marriage, right? We have definitely went to sleep disagreeing, unhappy, didn't settle the dispute. So don't put pressure on yourself to be perfect. Perfect does not exist. Majority of the time, we try to follow these standards to keep a healthy marriage, right? And another fact that this is not breaking news, I'm not sharing anything new. You are not going to get along with your spouse every day. That's not realistic. You're not going to get along with anyone close to you every day. And you don't even like yourself every day. So that's not realistic. Give yourself some grace. Marriage is not going to be perfect every day. You want to be more like Christ every day. So marriage should improve. You should learn more about each other, anticipate, pay attention, be kind, love, right? Lead with love. But you're not going to be perfect every day. So anything that we suggest that we do, anything that I share that we do, is not 10 out of 10 times. It's a good 8.5 out of 10 times we try to do. And we're reminding each other, like, hey, we look like we're going down a road we don't want to go. We try not to raise our voice. One of the major things we try not to do is bring back too much of the past into the present, right? Because we're disagreeing, we're arguing, you get into a mode of, I want to win the argument. At your core, you know that's not the best method. But in the moment, you're trying to prove you're right and they're wrong. And in doing that, sometimes you bring back some stuff from the past. We try not to do that. Whenever we start to do that, because we want ammunition to support our current argument, our current point of view, we'll bring back things in the past. And then we'll check each other like, you're going pretty far back. Like, I thought you already forgave me for that. So that's one thing you don't want to do. You don't want to go too far back to bring things that you're already reconciled over and forgave each other for. You have to decide if the conversation in that moment is the best time to have that conversation. I'm not a parent or husband that thinks you can't argue in front of your children. Now, it would be best if you could disagree respectfully in front of them. They do have to see their parents disagree. You don't want to set them up to think that if they have an argument with their spouse down the road when they marry, that they're not supposed to argue if they never seen you argue. Now, they need to see you disagree respectfully. And if you're going to argue in front of your children, it is my suggestion that you apologize in front of your children. Let them know that you guys have reconciled, you guys have forgiven each other, and that you apologize for anything that they witnessed that could have been a heartache to them. But we do disagree in front of our children. And if we disagree in front of our children, we apologize in front of our children. So you guys have to decide what time is best to continue this conversation. You guys might want to consider not going too far back in the past to give yourself ammunition for a present argument. You guys have to decide, whoever you look to on the internet for advice, what's their track record? What's their history? Are they married? Are they divorced? Are they on their second marriage, their third marriage? How do they do in their relationships? How long have they been married? I'm married 23 years. I got some skin in the game on knowing what works and what doesn't work. I think after 23, I'm in a position to share some wisdom. This gray hair confirms that as well. I got some age with me, experienced some life, and we've been through some things. So I say all that to say as well, marriage is really difficult because relationships are difficult. A great relationship with your supervisor, your child, your best friend, that whenever y'all meet, they're usually late. Relationships are just hard in general. But when you marry, you say for better or for worse. And I think a lot of people don't want to think about for worse. When something happens, you got to be 10 toes down in the marriage. And that's when your faith comes into play, you honoring marriage comes into play, and you just stand up. You just stand up even stronger because that person is not going to be at 100% when something is going wrong. One of you are not going to be operating on all cylinders. So marriage is difficult because relationships are difficult. It's really no different. I saw a clip with Michelle Obama, and she was saying there was a brief time where she wasn't even getting along with Barack. And Dwayne Wade was interviewing her, and he was like, that was startling to hear. But the fact is, There's times we don't like each other. There's times we don't like ourselves. There's times where we find it difficult to get along with the people closest to us. And that's just a fact. Give yourself some grace. You have to set the rules in your home for engagement and disagreements. You set the rules. You find out what works for you. Keep it respectful. Be mindful of what you say. Some things is hard to pull back on, to take back once the toothpaste is out of the tube. So be careful what you say. Have some rules of engagement. Like, we're not going to be cursing at each other. We're not going to be throwing things. We're definitely not going to lay hands on each other. We're not going to storm out. We're going to say if we need a break, hey, let's take a break. Let me take a walk. I'll be right back. Let me clear my mind. And what really helps us is to pray before we start the conversation. I should have led with that. Leading with prayer before we start the conversation is huge, right? Huge. It sets the table that we want to have a softened heart for what's about to come at us. All right? So it also helps to share when you see a different perspective on social media, to share that clip. That has helped us. We have shared sermons with each other. We have shared what we deem wise advice in marriage with each other, and it gives you a different perspective. Sometimes you just need to hear something different from someone different. Another thing that works for me is writing. I'll write all my thoughts and feelings out in a text and send it to her. She likes to talk, so when she replies, she can look through the text and answer, each line item that I laid out as things that I think that needs to be worked on and addressed. I like the text because I don't want to get my words minced. I don't want to start saying something, she responds, then I'm going out on a different avenue because I've been distracted by how she responded. So I find it really helpful to write down my thoughts and feelings. She likes to talk, I like to write. You need to do what works for you. That is the premise and objective of this video. Do what works for you. Stay in it together though. It can't be something where you veer off that works for you. You going to the bar or a strip club, that can't be the thing that works for you. Find what works for you respectfully and disagreeing, and do that. Either we have to talk at a certain time of day where we both have good energy, we just woke up, we have a cup of coffee together, we go for a walk, we talk. Do something healthy that you can agree on when you disagree and to talk it out. Don't do something reckless, all right? So when I say do what works for you, it's not anything that works for you. It's not pornography. It's not calling up an old girlfriend. It's not looking on Facebook and reconnecting. It's not any of those things. It's healthy things that you'll agree that when we start butting heads, we're going to do respectfully. Rules of engagement, all right? Set up rules of engagement for your home, for your marriage. Let them be healthy. Let them be agreeable. Let's agree that these are the rules. When I say the safe word, you're going to cut me a minute to catch my breath. When you say the safe word, I'm going to do the same. We got to make sure the time is not too long. It has to be mutually agreeable what you're going to do for the rules of engagement. So as we gather information, there's a lot of wise people on the internet sharing great wisdom, great perspectives. You want to know who they are, how long they've been married, and you want to take that as a tool in your toolbox if it's mutual agreeable and it works for you. Let that be the theme. Mutual agreeable and it works for you, and it's not something that's going to take you further from being Christ-like in the marriage. It's going to bring you closer. So agreeing the rules of engagement are very important. So I just want to share that. It's a lot of wisdom out there. Take what you can to build your own model and culture in your house for the rules of engagement when you and your spouse are at odds. All right? I hope that helps someone. I love y'all.